Ever get yourself online like, wait, how'd they find that, that info that's technically out in the open, but still feels kind of buried?
Right, like it's hiding in plain sight.
Exactly. So today, we're going deep on open source intelligence, OSINT, for those in the know.
Catching the vibe already.
We're basing this deep dive on a YouTube video, by the way, really snappy title, OSINT Tools, 99.99% of people don't know about. Ambitious.
Bold claim, for sure. Got to see if it lives up to the hype.
Exactly. So no better place to start than the beginning. The video jumps right in, talking about this thing called the OSINT framework.
Which is basically like the mother lode if you're into this kind of thing. It's a website, really well organized, tons of different OSINT tools, all categorized and ready to go.
So instead of just like randomly Googling stuff and hoping for the best,
you've got this framework, right? Makes the whole process way more structured. And they actually dive into some specific examples in the video, starting with usernames, using this tool called NameCheckIt.
Username investigation sounds intense.
It's pretty wild, actually. You plug in a username, and NameCheckIt scours the web, looking for matches across all these different platforms, social media, forums, the works.
So if you were trying to, say, come up with a unique brand name.
Exactly. You could use NameCheckIt to make sure it's not already being used somewhere else online.
Smart. So it kind of makes you realize how hard it is to disappear online,
Totally. That digital footprint follows you everywhere. Speaking of which, the video then gets into email deep dives, specifically this platform called ENT Industries.
Okay, I gotta admit, the name doesn't exactly scream digital detective.
I know, right? But don't let that fool you. This thing is powerful. It can scan, get this, over 200 websites for any mention of a specific email address.
200?
Seriously?
No joke. It's a goldmine if you're trying to track down connections or verify info. Like, imagine you're a journalist, right?
Or even just someone trying to, reconnect with a long-lost friend or something. Exactly. And if that's not enough, they then mention this other tool called That's Them. It's basically like a reverse phone book, but for emails.
So you put in an email address, and it spits out
potentially the person's name, past addresses linked to that email, all kinds of stuff.
Talk about connecting the dots.
Right. It really highlights how interconnected our online lives really are. But let's move from email to something a little different domains. The video talks about this tool called DNS Twister, which I thought was super relevant, especially with all the online scams and phishing going around these days.
Sure. Gotta watch out for those fake websites.
Exactly. And that's where DNS Twister comes in. It uncovers those sneaky variations in domain names that scammers love to use. Like, you might think you're on the real google.com.
Right, but it could be like goggle with 2 G's or something.
Exactly. Or some other subtle misspelling that's easy to miss.
Sneaky. Makes you really pay attention to those URLs.
Yeah.
But DNS Twister isn't the only tool that can reveal hidden info. The video then gets into IP address tracking using a website called iplogger.org.
Yeah, and this is where things get a little more, shall we say, ethically ambiguous.
How so?
Well, IP tracking itself isn't necessarily good or bad. It has legitimate uses in cybersecurity and stuff. But tools like this, they make it really easy for anyone to get someone's IP address, which can then be used to figure out their approximate location.
I see what you mean. So it's not so much the technology itself, but how it's used.
Exactly. Like the video talks about how someone could hide a tracking link in a message or even embed it in an image.
Ooh, didn't even know that was possible.
It's pretty wild. And speaking of revealing information, the video then goes from the digital world to the physical world with this thing called InsaCam. Ever heard of it?
Can't say I have. What is it?
So InsaCam is basically a directory of publicly accessible webcams.
Wait, like live feeds from people's homes?
Well, the website claims they only list cameras that are intentionally broadcasting publicly.
Still kind of creepy, right? Like how much of our lives are unintentionally being broadcasted online?
Right. And it's not just live feeds either. The video then talks about this other tool, Image OPS, that can actually analyze images for hidden data.
Like what you mean, like location tags and stuff?
Yep. And the type of camera that was used, even the fonts used in any text within the image.
Never would have thought about that. It's amazing how much information can be gleaned from something as simple as a photo. But beyond photos, there's this other, massive source of information online, social media. The video highlights a tool called OSNgrams for this. Any guesses? OSNgrams. Sounds like it has something to do with Instagram.
Bingo. OSINT Grams is all about deep diving into Instagram profiles. Think of it like a super-powered magnifying glass for the platform. It can reveal connections, interests, all sorts of stuff.
That sounds incredibly useful, actually. Imagine being a business owner trying to, understand your target audience better.
Oh, absolutely. Or market researchers trying to analyze trends. The possibilities are pretty much endless. But here's the kicker. It's not just what we post online that can be revealing, but our physical location too.
Right.
And that leads us to geolocation tools.
Geolocation tools. They can track your whereabouts through the internet.
You got it. These tools analyze photos, videos, even social media posts, looking for any clues about where they might have been taken. The video gave an example of someone posting a photo that they thought was totally harmless.
But it wasn't.
Nope. Turns out there were enough landmarks in the background for a geolocation tool to pinpoint their exact location. And that brings us to what might be the most significant part of this whole video, OSINT automation.
Automation.
Meaning taking all of these tools and techniques we've been talking about and putting them on autopilot. Imagine setting up automated searches for specific keywords or cracking mentions of your company or your competitors online.
Wow. It's like having your own personal team of digital detectives working around the clock.
Exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
It's almost like, having a sixth sense for the internet.
Right.
Instead of just randomly coming across stuff.
You've got this system that's constantly searching, analyzing.
Exactly. And the video makes a good point about how OSINT automation, it's not just about collecting tons of data.
It's about making sense of it.
Finding the signal in the noise.
Totally. Imagine being able to track online sentiment around a new product launch.
Or if you're a larger company, even monitoring for potential security threats.
Having that real-time pulse on what's happening online.
It's incredibly powerful stuff, but it also feels, kind of like we're entering uncharted territory here.
Yeah, for sure. And the video touches on this too, how the laws and regulations around OSINT, they're still trying to catch up with all these new capabilities.
It's moving so fast.
It really is. And it raises a lot of ethical questions too, just because we can automate all this data collection and analysis.
Doesn't necessarily mean we should.
Exactly. There's a real need to balance the benefits with the potential downsides, especially as these tools become more and more sophisticated.
So it's not just about knowing how to use these tools.
It's about knowing when and why to use them.
Right. Having that ethical compass to guide you, which the video, to its credit, does acknowledge.
Yeah, they definitely don't shy away from the tricky stuff. Imagine if these automation tools were used to, manipulate public opinion.
Or spread misinformation.
Right. It's a scary thought, but it highlights how important critical thinking is in this day and age.
Absolutely. We can't just blindly trust everything we see online, especially when it comes to information that's been, curated or filtered by algorithms.
Right, and that's kind of the paradox of all this, isn't it? We have access to more information than ever before.
But that also makes it harder than ever to know what's true, what's not, what to trust.
It's a double-edged sword, for sure. And that's why I think this whole conversation about OSINT is so important.
Because it's not just about the tools themselves.
It's about understanding the power of information and how it can be used both for good and for bad.
And most importantly, it's about taking responsibility for how we use that information ourselves. It's funny, isn't it? We started out talking about OSINT, and I think we both had this, spy thriller image in our heads.
A little bit, yeah.
But the reality is, this stuff is accessible to everyone, which is kind of a trip when you think about it.
It really makes you realize, how exposed we all are online.
Right. And how important it is to be mindful of that digital footprint, like you were saying earlier.
Absolutely. What you do online, it's not just between you and your computer screen anymore.
Definitely not. But it's not all doom and gloom, right? The video also highlighted how OSINT can be used for good.
Oh, for sure. Investigative journalism is a big one.
Right. Holding people accountable, uncovering the truth.
Exactly. And there are even cases where it's been used to, reunite families separated by war or natural disasters.
Wow. That's incredible. I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing when you think about the potential applications, both positive and negative.
It really highlights how it's not about the tools themselves, but the people using them.
100%. It all comes back to ethics, responsibility.
And being aware of the potential consequences of our actions online.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And, that's something the video really emphasized, too, that message of using these tools wisely.
Well said. So to wrap things up, I gotta say, this deep dive into the world of OSINT, It's been eye-opening, to say the least.
It really makes you look at the internet and the world a little differently.
For sure. And to everyone listening, if this sparked your curiosity, don't let the conversation end here. Go check out the OSINT framework, experiment with some of these tools.
Always remember, with great power
Comes great responsibility. Exactly.
Yeah.
And who knows, you might be surprised by what you find out there about the world, about other people, even about yourself.
Now that's a thought to leave you with.